Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Absolute Podcast. I'm your host, Jasmine Templin, personal trainer, online coach. And today we have a very special guest on the podcast who's actually been a client of mine for a few years now. So welcome, Jess. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, introduce yourself to the audience and how amazing you are?
Oh, thank you. Well, how amazing I am. That's a lot of pressure, but thank you for the vote of confidence. So my name is Jess Blower. I am a psychologist, a researcher, and an educator. As a psychologist, the work that I do probably isn't what people immediately think. I'm not a therapist. Instead, I do coaching psychology, which is really a solution-focused, future-focused type of psychology, where we're looking at improving performance or well-being. Even if there's a problem we want to solve, we're looking at how to be better in the future. As a researcher, I work in the space of social psychology, which is around how the presence of others, whether they're actually there or we imagine other people around us, can impact our thoughts, feelings, and behavior. And I'm also currently completing a PhD. And part of that, as a PhD researcher, I also work in higher education. So I use my coaching psychology stuff, my knowledge of psychology to teach students as well. So I like to wear many hats, and they're the main ones that I wear.
100%. So amazing. You just definitely do it all, always have. And I know you always will, which is so amazing and help so many people. So we're definitely going to have a little bit more of a deeper chat today in regards to goal setting, because I know it's something that we both work, clients regarding around. So I would love to get a little bit more into the science behind it, but in regards to goal setting, what do you encourage with your clients?
Well, the first thing when it comes to working with clients, we've all got things that we want to achieve, and those things can be goals, absolutely. But usually the first thing I want to clarify is if someone has a goal or what their goals are, and rather than if they're just talking about hopes or aspirations. Not that there's anything wrong with ambitions, hopes, or aspirations, right? They're great. They're like these big meta things that we want to have. Like, I want to be healthy. That's an aspiration that we can achieve. But goals are about drilling that down. Exactly how are we going to become healthy or fitter or whatever it is that we're working with someone on. So that's the very first thing I like to clarify. And then the next thing is exactly what is goal setting. So goal setting is around having a clear path to how we can achieve a desired future state. And with that clear path, one of the big things is having any sort of path, any sort of goal is better than nothing. So better than just having hopes or aspirations, I guess.
Yeah, beautiful, amazing. And what does the science say about goal setting?
Something that I often come across, and I suspect many of your listeners might understand, is that science says a lot about goal setting. And one of the things that science says is the tried and tested method of SMART goals.
Yes.
That we've all probably sat in a workshop for, or, done a performance review about. They're kind of bullshit. That SMART goals actually isn't the most science-supported way of setting goals if there's some desired future state that you want to achieve. So why is that? First of all, I will remind, of course, I just said any goal is better than nothing. So if SMART goals are your jam and they make things happen for you, you don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can keep using your SMART goals, but maybe you can improve them a smidge considering science. So, for example, usually SMART is about specific and measurable. Well, if something is specific, then you usually can measure it. So this is where this whole acronym starts to fall apart. If something is achievable and realistic, they're kind of the same things as well, but there's still issues there. The reason SMART goals are so problematic is that when science tries to test it, one, the things I've just said don't really work. SMART goals aren't applied consistently. We know consistency is actually key to achieving goals, and that they can actually lead to quite a bit of confusion. So how can you improve on SMART goals is something that people then always follow up with about science. So first of all, sometimes instead of having a really specific goal, it is better to have a more open goal. or a do your best goal. So imagine you have a client come to see you and they want to start a new exercise program. If we try to be really specific about exactly what we want, that can feel like a lot of pressure. So sometimes actually just having people have a goal of, you know what, this week I'm going to do my best is way more productive in getting them to commit to their new goal. Open goals are another thing, like let's just see how well I can do. And let's see how well I can do again can take sort of some pressure off and lead to better performance. So if you're at the gym and you're trying to lift heavier and heavier, you know, instead of going in and being like, today I'm going to get a PB, you go in and say, you know what, today I'm just going to see how heavy I can lift. That's probably the day you'll actually get the PB, according to science. Another thing about the SMART goals, I mentioned achievable and realistic are kind of the same thing. And they're also kind of a problem because we actually know if goals are too achievable or too easy to achieve, they're not motivational. So we actually need this like Goldilocks level of goals where they're not too easy, not too hard. So they might not seem entirely realistic. They might just seem plausible. That's kind of a better goal. Another thing about science is it is important, and this is in the SMART acronym, to have timed goals. You should have a time frame that you're trying to achieve things. Because if it's just, you know, one day I'd like to be fitter, that's an aspiration, right? A hope or an ambition. It's not a goal. The other thing that I like to help clients with goal setting is that we can actually make SMART goals smarter by adding in having goals being enduring. So having them be part of a big picture and having goals be ranges. So things like if you're at the gym, you're trying to do a set of, I don't know, bicep curls, you want to do a new weight of bicep curls, instead of being like, I'm going to do this week 3 sets of 8 and I'm going to do whatever kilograms, saying to yourself, my goal will be to do 3 to 5 sets of 8 to 10. If you do 3 sets of 8 at whatever weight, you'll feel much better because you've actually achieved something. And in the future, you're more likely to move towards that 10 and 5 sets, for example.
Yeah.
So they would probably be the main things that science says about goal setting, that SMART goals actually aren't that smart. They're riddled with a few problems, and we can actually make them smarter. And then the other thing that science is really important that we like to clarify is around the fact that often we have a clear destination that we want to achieve, you know, somewhere we want to get. We want to compete in a certain competition, or we want to, you know, write a thesis, whatever it is we want to do. We know the destination, but we often don't really spell out the journey that we need to take to actually get there. So this is where it's super helpful to have a coach, obviously. So all your clients, you actually help them work through their journey. But what people might not realize is how that journey is happening. And from the sports space, and this is applied to a whole range of things, we know goals need to be a series of outcome goals, performance goals, as well as process goals. The outcome goal is what people are really good at. You know, I want to lift this weight. I want to write this thesis. I want to publish this book. But it's the process and the performance goals that people often forget. So process goals are literally like, what do I need to do to actually perform and reach this outcome? And performance goals are, what is the standard that I'm trying to achieve? So if we think about someone trying to, you know, lift heavier at the gym, performance goals the standard might be the weight that you're trying to achieve. And then the process goals, the things you need to achieve, can be things like making sure you're having adequate protein to feed your muscles. It can be making sure you actually do that part of the body a few times at the gym, making sure you stretch appropriately so your muscles can recover, and so on. So that's the other key thing. Are your goals actually getting you on your journey? Is your journey clear, or is it only your destination you're clear about?
Yeah, beautiful. And, you know, would you agree in saying that, you know, every client can be so different in terms of the length of goals that you do set? I mean, yeah, so, you know, some of my clients, sometimes they're, especially if you're a long-term client and I'm very familiar with them, sometimes if I know they're maybe mentally, you know, something's happened and maybe they're not in a mentally good space, you know, sometimes I'll just set them the goal of get to the gym once, or even just journaling for every single day I'll tell them to do. So everyone is so different. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely no one size fits all. So it might be that everyone should set, different process goals and performance goals, even if they all have the same outcome goal. But you can't just cookie cut someone's goals and be like, well, if it works for them, it'll work for me, because your goals need to take into consideration a whole range of independent factors. And, a brilliant example, if someone's having a terrible week and actually what they need to do to support their goals is journaling, that doesn't mean journaling might hurt the next person if they do it. But yes, that would be like a process. I would engage in the process of journaling to make sense of life so I can better perform and eventually, reach the outcome I'm trying to achieve.
Absolutely. So a step in the right direction. And where would you say that motivation fits along this goal setting?
Oh, I'm sure you hear this all the time yourself, that people are like, oh, I'm sorry, I just wasn't motivated to get to the gym this week, or I just didn't feel motivated to actually track my macros, or whatever it is that you're working with someone on. That's another thing that, like SMART goals, motivation, it's not bullshit per se, but it isn't usually what people think it is. It's not this magical thing that kind of appears or disappears. You're always motivated. It's just that you're either motivated to approach something or motivated to avoid. So when clients come and they go, I just wasn't motivated to engage in the journaling that I was supposed to do, or get the draft in on time, or whatever, they were motivated to avoid doing that thing, not motivated to approach it. So look, there are ways that you can actually increase your motivation if you're finding your approach motivation, that is, if you're finding you're more motivated to avoid things. And one of the ways is just to be disciplined, just to have a no holds barred. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show up at the gym at this time on this day each week. And having the discipline to actually show up will actually increase your motivation to do the workout or whatever it is you have to do. So yeah, motivation is a super big one we always talk about.
Yeah, you sound exactly like me. And as you said earlier, consistency is the biggest common denominator in terms of success. So staying at it regardless of how you're feeling, because if we only get the work done on the days we feel like it, never going to get it done.
That's right. And motivation, the other thing with it is, if you actually start, that's when motivation will develop or, continue. So if you be consistent and you show up at the gym and you just start doing the workout, you'll be sometimes surprised, but you'll be quite happy to stay there for the 40 minutes and do everything you needed. Because once you start, motivation develops.
Yes. Even one of my girls, I was telling yesterday or the day before, I said, one of her non-negotiables for the week was just to get outside for 5 minutes, just 5-minute walk, that's it. And I guarantee she'll check in next week and say, oh, ended up doing 15, 20 minutes. It's just felt so good. And I always do that with myself. It's, just put the shoes on, just get outside for a minute. And then the next thing I've been an hour and I'm like, oh, I don't want to stop.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's what happens.
And then this next question that I have here, which I guess you kind of just answered, but what is a problem with goal setting you see in your clients, and what does science say you can do to solve the problem?
Yeah, so there are a few different things that you can do. One problem I kind of did touch on, which kind of links to that, people will be clear on the destination but not the journey. That kind of is like, people can set goals. And New Year's is a brilliant example of this, right? We can set goals. This is what I'm going to do. But actually attaining the goals or keeping the goals can be really difficult. So you can actually do quite simple things. It's not earth-shattering, but like talk to yourself about your goals. So let's say there's something you want to do. You rock up at the gym and you just, you want to lift heavier today, or you want to get the workout done. Like, just engaging in some sort of self-talk will actually increase the likelihood you'll achieve that goal that day. So even just saying something like, today I'm going to lift heavier than I did last week, or today I'm going to write more words than I did yesterday. So just some sort of talking to yourself. The talking to yourself, you can be really strategic about if you talk to yourself about a process goal, or if you talk to yourself about an outcome. So that was kind of an outcome example: lift more, write more. A process might be, I'm going to avoid my phone for longer today, you know, when you're trying to write. Or I will actually perform all the exercises that my coach has prescribed in order. You know, that's the process. So just this little self-talk, saying it to yourself in the car before you walk into the gym, or as you sit down at your desk about to write, that can actually increase your likelihood that on that occasion you're going to attain that goal, or keep that goal, or keep on track to that bigger goal.
Beautiful. Yeah. And what would you say are a few things that people could do to increase their likelihood when it comes to achieving their goals?
Yeah, so there's other things like simple little things like make yourself a fake deadline. So if you need to do 3 workouts this week, that's what your coach has suggested is going to be beneficial for you. You know, in our heads, we're like, the week is Monday to Sunday or whatever it is. So make yourself a fake deadline. Like, I'm going to get those 3 workouts done by Friday.
Yes.
When we have a fake deadline, even when we've made it ourselves and we know that it's fake, we're more likely to achieve and be motivated to achieve that goal. So that's always a good one. I have kind of in my head a 72-hour deadline. Like, I was aimed for 72 hours earlier than it needs to be. Just because I find if stuff's going to blow up, it's going to happen sort of 48 to 72 hours before something's actually due.
Yeah.
Another thing that people don't realize, it's super simple. Research shows that if you look at a horizon, you're actually more likely to achieve your goals because you're more likely to take on obstacles in your stride. So something like setting the screensaver on your computer or your phone, or even just having easy access to a nice photo of a horizon that you like. So horizon is any time that sort of 2 lines meet. So sky meets the ocean, you know, mountains meet the sky, whatever it is. Any horizon picture, have a look at that before you start working on a goal.
Yeah, I didn't know that one.
Yeah, so I have a favourite Gold Coast spot, favourite horizon I have a photo of. That's my go-to.
Oh, beautiful. You'll have to send me it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. No, I love that. And does science provide any unexpected hacks for goal accomplishment?
Yeah, so it is around some of that stuff like creating, looking at a horizon. There's also hacks around like how you talk to yourself around a goal, or the questions you might ask someone who you know is working towards a goal. So things like, if someone is working towards a goal that is really clear, really unambiguous, really certain, like perhaps they're going to compete, right, in bodybuilding or some sort of competition, then actually asking them, you know, what's left to go? What do you have left to do before you can step on stage? Increases goal achievement through increasing motivation and performance. So not focusing on where they've been, but what's left to go.
Yeah.
If someone is working on a goal and it's kind of uncertain, a bit ambiguous, so maybe they've decided they want to get healthier, they want to get fitter, they know that that probably involves a bit of weight loss, but it's kind of unclear exactly what it's going to look like, even if we're setting weekly goals. You know, this goal this week is to follow these macros and get to the gym, but it's kind of not making sense in a grander scheme of things. We want to focus on progress to date. So we want to focus on, you know, what have you done in the past? So last week you managed to get all your macros spot on, you managed to get to the gym on time, and so on. That's actually more motivational than focusing on the path ahead.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. No, I really like that. Awesome. And then let's chat about taking a break, taking a step back, because we know that's just as important. So last time we spoke about goal setting, and you said one big thing for achieving goals is actually need to take a break. Can you tell me what you mean by this? Like, what is taking a break to you? What does that look like?
Yeah, so when we have a goal we want to achieve, you know, it's obviously important to us. We often don't work towards goals that are important to someone else. So we want to work on them often, you know, particularly when we're feeling really motivated. We want to work on it every day. We're, you know, training for a dance comp. We want to dance every day, make sure we're getting all the dance training in as much as possible. But actually we need to step away and take a break. Break is super important, because if you don't take a break before you're ready to, besides all the physiological stuff, we'll come back to that, you'll actually deplete motivation. So you need to stop when you don't want to, so that you're super keen to get back into whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
So what does a break actually look like, though? It can look widely different to everyone. The main thing is to make sure you have some sort of stop, because without a break, not only will you deplete your own motivation, but you can experience things like burnout. It's why people can, love a sport and then suddenly can never even consider doing it again.
Yeah, that a lot.
They take a break, I bet. Yeah.
It's almost similar to when we do deload weeks and clients are always mentioning, don't want to do it, still feel really good. Just trust me, you're going to need it. Otherwise,
they get it
complaining in a few weeks.
Yeah, you get their results and they've got a PB and deload week. And you're like, that is not a deload week. You need to have a break.
100%. Love that. And what are some things that we can do outside of, I guess, the gym, just to take a break? Like to say, if you're studying, for uni, what is some tips and tricks to take a break to recharge, if we're almost like experiencing a bit of burnout?
Yeah, so my actual, my PhD, the space that I work in, I was most interested in looking at how we can use health and well-being to improve people's life in general. And then, of course, that improves things like well-being and performance, right? So there's all this research, almost 20 years of research in the workspace, employee space, that employees, when we're at work, think of ourselves as a battery, and that battery depletes as we use energy and effort to complete our work task. Whatever our work is, doesn't matter. So when we're not at work, like on weekends, even if we take long lunch breaks in the mornings and in the evenings and so on, for that, normal 9-to-5 job, when we're not at work, we need to do things to restore that energy. So we need to recharge our batteries, basically. So this research then also has been moved across to the student space. There's some of it looking at the parenting space too. So the importance of where you can taking a break from parenting so that you don't burn out. How going to the gym, particularly individuals who are doing bodybuilding and whatnot, this falls into a space that we call serious leisure. And this is where, for some people, they might have a job that they do 40 hours a week, but they're also a bodybuilder. Serious leisure is something, it's more than a hobby. It's more than just a hobby, but it's not quite a job. But still the literature will apply to that. When you're not focusing on your goals for bodybuilding, or, this would also go for people who engage in amateur or semi-professional dance and so on, you still need to have some sort of a break from that thing that you're doing, because your battery needs to be recharged. So how do we recharge our batteries? Psychologically, what we need to do is engage in any activities of our choosing. So it doesn't matter what you do. It matters that the activities you do give you these 4 psychological experiences. One is a sense of detachment. So you need to physically and mentally disconnect from the thing. So even if you love it, even if you love your work and things are going great and you're thinking about how wonderful tomorrow would be, that is not good. You need to detach mentally, not think about good stuff, not think about bad stuff, and physically step away from the workplace. You need a sense of relaxation. So you need your body and your mind to experience low effort. So that doesn't mean nothing, right? If you're a pretty go person, you don't really like sitting down too much, your low physical effort will be quite different from someone else who likes to chill and not do a whole lot. So low physical and mental effort, but you've got to feel good about it. You've got to be experiencing positive feelings when you're doing not a lot. The third thing is you need to achieve a sense of mastery in some activities. So that's where you need to experience a positive challenge, feel like you're learning new skills that you can use. So I would suspect many of your clients would actually find from their full-time job that the training that they do with you, that you prescribe, is a sense of mastery. You go to the gym and you're either sometimes learning a new exercise, you've never done this particular exercise, or every week when you're leveling up, just a little bit more, doing an extra rep or an extra set or extra weight. That's a sense of mastery, because you're learning a new skill or using newfound skills. And then the fourth thing you need is a sense of control. So you need to choose what you do, when you do it, and how you do it. So whatever it is you do, any activities, if someone drags you along and you couldn't be stuffed doing it, that's not going to achieve that sense of control for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't necessarily need all of them in one activity or all of them all of the time, but you do need to achieve those. And sometimes things like for a bodybuilder, serious leisure, their work can be a recovery experience from their serious leisure.
Yeah, yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah, amazing. And would you say taking a break is self-care, or do they fall into separate categories?
Yeah, there's definitely overlap, because at the end of the day, the thing about self-care is making sure that you are devoting the time to yourself, or the space to yourself might be a better explanation, because it's not a time-based thing, so that you can, you know, keep going, treating yourself with self-compassion, kindness and whatnot. So actually engaging in effective recovery, realizing I'm a battery, and if I keep running on empty, I'm gonna conk out, you know, and there's no coming back from that. That's one of the things about burnout. It's very clear if you don't get effective recovery, you're on the road to burnout. Burnout's really difficult to come back from, you know, in any arena that you experience burnout in. And you have people do things like in the workplace where they change jobs. Changing jobs doesn't alleviate burnout. You just take the burnout with you to the next job.
Yeah.
So yeah, recharging your batteries absolutely is a form of self-care. And so if that takes the weight off people's shoulders as well, to take time out of whatever it is that's important so that they can be the best they can the next time they do it, yeah, definitely think of them as the same thing.
Yeah, beautiful. And just say someone is extremely burnt out, not necessarily from the gym, but more so just from work, maybe kids, just overall burnt out. What would you suggest that they can do to, you know, come back to that? And what, let's just say they can't really just take time off work or just take time off kids and necessarily training. I mean, they can with training, but I guess what are a couple tips that you would give them?
So there's three parts of burnout, right? One is a sense of exhaustion, and that can be a mental and a physical exhaustion. So things need to be done to both, you know, make up for that exhaustion, whether it be rest, even if it's mental rest in some way, right? So if you've got like a busy working parent and they're burnt out from, you know, the weight of the amount of things that they have to do with work and home and children and whatever, doing things where possible, like if you can have, things are coming to my mind, like ordering your food online so it gets delivered, so you don't have to take that time out to do it, and having an automatic order so you've got a bit of that mental load. That might be an example of something to help with exhaustion. But the other parts, we often think about burnout as just exhaustion, but it's more than that. It's about people feel quite cynical about whatever the thing is that has burnt them out. And they also tend to have a reduced sense of efficacy, as in they start thinking they can't achieve like they did before. I'm not actually that good at work anyway. Even if they're like kicking goals in the gym, they feel like they're not. So that's where sometimes that mastery stuff really can be useful. Anything that can give you the opportunity to learn a simple new skill. Gosh, trying to bake something that you've never baked before and having success in it. Yeah, anything to give you a sense like, oh, look, I tried and this thing was able to happen. That's cool. A huge one as well is actually going to be perspective taking. Things like, I know you're always telling people to do things like gratitude and journaling. Gratitude, you don't want to do too much if you're trying to get out of a state of burnout, because it can feel quite superficial. But yeah, journaling. I guess the main thing I would suggest is variety, like try different things until something kind of sticks.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, I have to throw in there, as a psychologist, I would be remiss to not say seek professional help if you need to. If only we could all have our own personal psychologists or counselors or whatnot, because we always have things we'd like to do better. You know, we don't need problems to see a counselor or psychologist, because there's always things we want to do better. So yeah, don't resist seeking professional help and reaching out to friends and family where possible.
100%. You know, I always am telling my girls and guys that, you know, I honestly believe that everyone could benefit off a psychologist, you know, even if you know, aren't depressed or, you know, you don't have anxiety type of thing. There's something that every human being can benefit from a psychologist. And I just think not enough people go to them. Like, I honestly think they should be utilized so much more. And it's, people won't hesitate, and I always say this all the time, but people won't hesitate to go look after their physical health and look after themselves, you know, from a physique standpoint. But when it comes to their mindset, people can be, oh, I don't know. No, that's going to be, you don't want to start there before you even consider looking at your physique, because what we do here isn't going to give you that happiness compared to, you know, internally and doing that internal work.
It all works together, right? The body and the mind. So you have to get every part of the system working well. It's kind of like if you just work on the physical stuff. Again, if you want to think of your body as a battery, you're never going to get to 100%. You're going to max out at what, 75, 80, because there's still going to be mindset related things holding you back. Even the most psychologically sound of us, you know, we all have something going on that we could work through with a counselor or psychologist, you know, someone to validate our experiences. It can't hurt, it can only help.
100%, couldn't agree more. And would you say, does it matter if rest and recovery is planned, or is it okay if it just happens?
Look, it doesn't matter if it just happens. So we think of recovery as proactive or reactive. So if you feel, you know, the weekend rolls around or your days off, whatever they happen to be, or even a chunk of time you have available, and you think, geez, I'm exhausted, I'm not going to do anything, I'm going to do this thing that's going to help me recover, that would be reactive recovery. That's fine. Ideally, though, you want to have proactive recovery built in, because, again, if you're engaging in regular proactive recovery, you're keeping things like burnout and other negative sort of experiences at bay. And it also means you can ramp up later. Yeah, it's kind of like you can't turn back time. You get too far and you go, crap, I am burnt out. You know, that's much harder to deal with than proactively having a little something every day, every week, you know, that actually keeps your batteries charged.
Absolutely, 100%. And people who haven't experienced severe burnouts, I don't think people realize how dramatic and how hard it is to come back from.
Yeah, because we're now throwing around burnout all the time. We're not often, what we mean is exhaustion.
Yes.
And we're all exhausted. We've all got a lot of things, you know, and that's not to take away from anyone's genuine exhaustion, but burnout really does rise above. Like the World Health Organization has said burnout is a genuine disorder, you know, a psychological disorder. And you just, you know, sometimes we can't help it. We've got a million things on our plate and life throws spanners in the works. So this whole idea of taking recovery should absolutely not make anyone feel like they're not doing enough, or, you know, any sort of guilt, because it's better to start today than never. But yeah, we definitely want to keep burnout at bay because it is nasty.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we actually touched on everything. You did amazing. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would really want to touch on or to the audience listening here today?
Look, I would just definitely say with goal setting, there's nothing wrong with having big hopes, ambitions, aspirations. They're super important. They'll keep you committed to smaller goals, but you do need smaller, clearer goals to know the journey you're on as well as the destination. Any goal setting is going to get you further than no goal setting at all. But, you know, maybe reconsider your SMART goals if that's your normal go-to. And definitely you need to take a break, give yourself permission to pause and have a rest. You know, I haven't touched on how important it is to physiologically restore the energy that you use, because that's not my area of expertise as a psychologist. But, you know, you need to sleep, right? You can't be awake 7 days in a row. You need to sleep within those 7 days. Your body needs a rest. So does your mind. You need to build up that psychological battery. So, yeah, build in rest periods, please.
Yes, I need to send this podcast to so many of my clients that don't sleep enough, that don't rest enough.
And if you need more tips, so you can follow me on socials. Jess does research. I've got heaps of goal setting stuff already on my socials, and I'm gonna do more into the recovery into the new year. So
perfect, beautiful. Yeah. Is there anywhere else that we can find you?
So mainly Instagram. Jess does research with a full stop between each. Yeah, that's probably the best place to contact me, I think.
Beautiful. I'll link it down below as well. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. So amazing chatting to you. You're just a breath of fresh air. And I know so many people will love this podcast, and we'll definitely have you again on the future. And maybe we'll get some podcast listener questions, since everyone will know who you are as well.
Yes, definitely. Happy to answer questions, play a little, what do you want to know from a psychologist, particularly in that coaching space?
Yeah.
Future focused, solution focused. I can absolutely answer mental health stuff as well, but yeah, happy to chat again anytime.
Oh, it'll be amazing. Well, thank you so much. And thank you guys all so much for listening.